You're listening to Boomers Today with your host, Frank Sampson.
Well, welcome to Boomers Today. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, and of course, each week we bring you important and useful information on issues facing baby boomers, their parents, and other loved ones. And I just want to thank everybody for all their support. Our listener list continues to grow. Many of you listen to us on various radio stations throughout the country. Some of you go to iTunes, iHeartRadio, or our app, which you can get for free on your iPhone or Android phone. And just want to thank you. And the reason I know that so many of you are listening to the show is because we have wonderful guests. And we have another great guest with us today. His name is Mark Glickman, and Mark is the CEO and founder of www.buddyins.com. He'll tell us more about that. It's a community of long-term care planning experts. Mark is also an actuary by profession and a licensed insurance agent. His mission is to help families across the country get a long-term care plan and help to support the 44 million caregivers in the United States. Mark, thanks so much for joining us on Boomers Today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Frank.
Yeah, it's such an important subject. I know that we've had guests on the show that in the past on this subject matter, but we can't talk about it enough. That's how important it is. And I'd like to just start out asking you, and we'll get into your organization. You'll tell us more about buddyins.com. But I guess the first question is pretty basic, and I'm going to ask it because, as you know, we deal with families all the time on various issues, and sometimes there's this perception out there that, doesn't Medicare pay for my dad's long-term care, or how do we get on Medicaid to get that paid? And, we ask the question about long-term care insurance. Sometimes there's puzzled looks that we get. Talk to us more about really what is long-term care insurance and what types of benefits does it bring?
Yeah, great question. It's probably the number one question we get. Doesn't my Medicare cover this? And the answer is Medicare is health insurance, and long-term care is covered by Medicaid, but only after you spend down all your assets. And the idea is at some point in your lives, you suffer from needing help with the normal activities of daily living. It could be dressing yourself, it could be bathing, things like that. And usually it happens more towards the end of your life, maybe in 80s, 90s, or looking into the future as people live longer into your hundreds. But at that point in time, that type of care can be either very expensive or it could require your family to have to come in and take care of you. And so what long-term care insurance is it's a funding mechanism effectively allowing you to save over time. And if an event like an extended care event happens, let's say you get Alzheimer's disease and you need care for 10 years, the insurance is there to kick in to pay for that and allow you to protect your assets.
So what's some of the biggest excuses that you get from people of why they don't buy long-term care? I'll give you an example. One of them I hear about is, it's too expensive. Or my kids are going to take care of me. I know my kids are going to take care of me. What are some of the things you hear of excuses of why people don't, look at this more serious?
Right, and nobody goes out, wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to buy some insurance today, right?
Right.
But the number one reason, as you pointed out, is people think it's too expensive. And that's because the cost of care is really expensive. But the way that I think about insurance is a little differently. It's really a leverage vehicle. And the objective of the experts that are the long-term care insurance agents who are specialists in this is to figure out how do we take your budget, whatever that might be, and stretch your budget as far as possible and get you a multiple of what you're putting into this. And so from my perspective, it's about what is the value proposition and does it make sense to buy based on those terms. So for sure, I hear all the time long-term care is expensive, but pretty much we can work with any person's budget to really help them come up with the foundation of a plan. And even if it doesn't cover the full cost of care, it covers the first dollars that you pay, which makes it so valuable. And let's say you're planning to self-fund it. As an example, it can always be a good hedge, or it could be a good foundation for a plan to even self-fund the need.
All right. Last I checked, there's still 100% chance that we're all going to die, okay, unless something's changed on the news today that I didn't see. However, and that's what people, so a lot of people get life insurance. But long-term care, they figure, well, maybe I'm going to hedge my bet here. But you may know a statistic better than I, but I know I had read something a while ago that once you turn 70, you have a very, very high percentage, not 100%, but a very high percentage that you're going to need some sort of long-term care assistance. Are you familiar with any statistic like that, or have you heard that?
Yeah, I actually I have an interesting background. As you mentioned, I'm an actuary. And what an actuary does is we actually calculate the statistics for the insurance companies, so we can help price the policies and decide how much we need to hold, the insurance company needs to hold to pay the ultimate claims for the customers. So I'm kind of uniquely positioned, and you're right, the chances of needing long-term care increase as you age. And there's a very high percentage that you'll need, at least one day of care at some point in your life. It may just be at the end of life. What the insurance policies typically do is they say if you're going to need care for at least 90 days, that's what their expectation is, because you can fund, or a lot of people can fund, a 90-day type of event or being in a hospice. But what the long-term care is designed to do is to protect you for that longer-term event, which obviously has a lower chance of happening, but when it does happen, it's catastrophic. It's devastating for families out there. And the one thing you're really trying to avoid with long-term care for most families, the right plan usually does not involve your kids actually providing the care. That's kind of a mistake. You kind of have that assumption that, well, at some point if I need it, maybe my kids will come in and take care of me. But when you actually see the realities of what that entails and the fact that your kids might not be trained to do it in the right way, it could end up impacting their lives.
It usually does. Yeah, it usually does.
And that's the primary motivation for people actually getting the insurance policies, not necessarily just for themselves, but I don't want my kids to have to take care of me if I do have an extended event like this. I'd rather have them be overseeing the caregivers, selecting the right providers for me, making those decisions, but actually having the funding to pay for the level of care that makes sense.
So I know, and we had somebody on the show a while ago that talked about, and I might be using the wrong term here, but it seemed to me to make so much sense, whereby you get a life insurance policy, and again, I might be using incorrect terminology, but it kind of combines with long-term care insurance, whether it's a rider or whatever it is, and that way when maybe a younger couple have kids, you want to have life insurance should anything happen, of course. But then as you age, the kids are now on their own, they're doing okay, and now you need care. That some of that policy can convert over. Can you, again, I might have botched it up a little bit, but can you kind of explain how that works?
Yeah, and you described it perfectly. What's happened is that as the market has evolved for the long-term care insurance, the insurance companies have come out with some innovations. And so not only do they have what they call the traditional long-term care policies, where you pay an amount of money and then you try to get as much long-term care benefits as possible, they now have, like you described, life insurance combination products where at the very minimum you're generally getting your money back, essentially, as a death benefit to your beneficiaries, but they're also designed to provide long-term care should you run out of that death benefit. So they're accelerating the death benefit and allowing you to use it as what they call a living benefit. So while you're living, you can actually use it for long-term care needs, and then they provide an additional amount of coverage in many cases beyond that. There are even annuity products with long-term care benefits attached to them to provide maybe 2 times or 3 times what the annuity value would be if you need long-term care. And there are even products designed for people that may not health qualify that they call short-term care, and these are only available in about 40 states, or so, but they provide a smaller amount of benefits, again, for that foundation, okay, so that a family knows what to do when that claim happens. And so there's a whole variety of different, what I call tools in the toolkit that your long-term care insurance specialist can use for you after they do a consultation. They figure out exactly what your needs are and what your budget is and what your health looks like.
You know, I'm sure depending on your health, you know, any people could get long-term care insurance at any age, but is there a kind of a age group that you think would be very wise for them to seriously look at it?
Yeah, I would say between ages 40 and 80 is kind of, it's a wide range, but those are the most common ages. And right in the middle there, in kind of your mid to upper 50s, is when most people buy it. The sooner you buy it, the better you are off. The number one reason for that is that your health actually enables you to qualify for the best plans, which equate to the most leverage for your dollar. And it allows you to kind of fund that over time as well and accumulate a lot more benefits. But it's never too late to plan, and I would say, in my opinion, it's never too early to plan as long as you have your other retirement plans set up as well. You know, again, because you need to be able to afford to have even a basic level of coverage. And you can do that by starting off at a lower premium, even if you're in, let's say, your 40s or in your 30s. I've seen people start their plans.
So you mentioned, you know, premiums. I know this is a loaded question, and I'm sure you'd start out the answer saying, well, it depends. But long-term care insurance costs, is there any way to give our listeners and to give me kind of an idea? Is there? Most agents would say it depends. I actually give people a number. Okay,
and
great.
The reason I do that is
great.
I know all the industry kind of averages for these things, and the average price that people pay for quote-unquote traditional long-term care, the first type that we talked about, is about $200 per month per person if you're, you know, in a married couple. So, you know, that can be affordable for a lot of people. It's really not as expensive as what most people perceive it to be.
It's not.
If you're younger, you can actually start off plans that I've seen as little as $20 or $50 a month. As you get older, again, it tends to be a little bit higher because you have less time to accumulate what you're putting into that plan to get enough in terms of benefits. But you can get the plans to be pretty budgetable. Just keep in mind that they cover a wide range of different scenarios. Some plans might only cover you for 1 year or 2 years. There are plans that have what are called lifetime unlimited benefits, which just never run out in terms of duration. And so that's why it's hard to give people a quote, is because you could buy whatever it is you want, and based on how much multiple you get on your premiums, you could get either a tremendous amount of benefits or just a foundational plan, is what I call it, that is going to help you self-fund it in the future.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's you know, and to me, I tell people this is a gift to your children. I know when my wife and I got long-term care insurance, I took the front page of the policy, made a copy of it, put it in an envelope, and put a ribbon around it and gave it to my kids. Because it is a gift to your family. Because you know, unless you really have planned, you know, a lot of money to pay for long-term care, it ends up falling on the family, and I'm sure you've seen situations like that.
I have, and that's really what motivates me. You mentioned this. There's 44 million caregivers, unpaid caregivers in the United States. The majority of them are the daughters that are taking care of their parents, which means that if you look around, you know, in any room, 1 out of every 6 adults may be a caregiver today. And when you think about that statistic, and people don't openly talk about that, you know, it's a very emotional connection when you start to share stories about, have you seen long-term care? Almost everybody's seen it. You know, out of my 4 grandparents, all 4 needed long-term care. And I've seen it with insurance, and I've seen it without insurance, and kind of the impact of that. And that really what is inspiring and motivating to me every day to help families out there.
Great. So, Mark, we're going to take a real quick break here. I just want to recognize our sponsor, and I want to come back and learn a little bit more about your organization and how you could help people. All right? So,
sounds great.
Great. I want to remind everybody that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority. an elder care consulting organization that has a national network of professionally trained and experienced local advisors to assist families in determining the right path for your loved ones. They'll discuss various long-term care options, whether it's in-home care, assisted living, memory care, nursing care, or if you just need an advocate to get advice from, a local senior care authority advisor can help you now. So for a free 30-minute consultation with an advisor in your area, contact Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231 or go to www.seniorcareauthority.com and you could find an advisor in your area. We're back with Mark Glickman, who is the founder of BuddyINS.com, and he's a long-term care planning expert, and he has a group of them around the country. Mark, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Buddy INS, and the reason we call it Buddy INS is it really involves the buddy system. I truly believe it takes a village to help people. We partner with other top long-term care insurance agents. We partner with Medicaid planning attorneys. If, let's say, you have a parent that's in the nursing home today, how do we help them navigate the Medicaid world, and are there ways to protect the assets at that point? We partner with agencies, home health care agencies, and facility placement agencies around the country. And because we have this large network of providers of different types, we can help people with a variety of different needs. For example, I'm an expert in the business owner long-term care planning arena, which differs because there are tax advantages if you use your business to actually fund the long-term care insurance premium, in that it's treated like a business expense and you can deduct it through your business. I have other experts in our network that are experts in the medical underwriting, and so if people have health issues, I can go to them and say which insurance company is going to be the best fit for this particular person with these health issues. And so even within the long-term care insurance space, even though it may be, a quote-unquote niche, there are even sub-expertises there that are very important to have. So I partner with almost all of the top insurance specialist agents in the country on this Buddy INS project and this website.
That's great. So is everybody promoting those people you're working with? Everybody promotes the BuddyINS.com site?
Yeah, and so what we do is actually I do a show, kind of like you do on this show, where I interview people on a video, 5 to 10 minutes, where they share a client story and the insurance solution that person got, just to bring awareness to it. I post them on LinkedIn. I'm in a program on LinkedIn where they're promoting that content. So if you search for Buddy INS on LinkedIn, you'll also find a lot of those videos. And really, by sharing these stories, we hope that people will see the realities of what they hear out there about what long-term care insurance is and what it does, and the way people are actually using it. Because at the end of the day, it's a very personal and customized type of planning process. It's not, a commodity. It's not a transaction. It really needs to, the agents that we work with, they're really asking a lot of questions so they can figure out what's going to be the right plan to fit, your situation. And that's the type of person that we invite into this network, is those people that really care about their client first, and they figure out what's the best fit.
So let's talk about that. So you have somebody that contacts you, and what's the type of information they should be prepared to talk about? What are some of the questions you ask when you first meet or talk with somebody?
Yeah, great question. And you may be surprised to hear this, but the very first question that a lot of people ask is, what's the reason why you're doing this? Is it due to somebody around you that's needed long-term care? Is it due to the fact that you may have had some type of health issue yourself, and then you became aware, okay, I may need to do this for myself? That motivation is a big driver of what direction you go down. And probably the next thing that's asked is about health. You have to do a very detailed health assessment because, as I mentioned, a lot of the insurance companies kind of focused in particular areas. Some actually handle people that have had prior cancers more favorably than other insurance companies. And so knowing the client's health is going to help direct them towards which type of solution they're going to be eligible for. And then usually right after that, it involves the finances. What does your retirement plan look like? What is your income? What do your assets look like? and asking questions about, for example, do you own a business, so we can identify maybe some potential tax advantages, or do you have a health savings account? You can actually fund long-term care insurance out of a health savings account, which surprises a lot of people. And so there's just different ways to fund the plan. And based on all of those kind of parameters, your long-term care insurance expert can then say, this is the right fitting product for you. And that's really how you know you're getting the right situation, the right deal, is because it's really the solution is based on exactly what your needs were that you expressed to that person.
Right. Oh, that's great to know. I know when long-term care insurance, it continues to be a hot commodity as far as discussion goes, but there's been a lot of changes, and maybe you could give us a little history, because I know that there were a number of long-term care insurance companies that they were promoting, and especially, we're both in California, but there were a lot of companies that pulled out. And my understanding is they pulled out because obviously, and you're an actuary, and they just didn't have the history to go on, and found that, hey, this could get too expensive, and a lot of companies pulled out. What's happening now? And what's going on?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about the history first, which was, the product was relatively new in the late 80s and early 90s, and as you pointed out, the insurance companies and the actuaries that priced the products back then, they didn't have a lot of data to go by. So they looked at what are some similar products in the market and what is the experience with those products, and let's apply that just as a starting point to the long-term care products. And what they found out is that long-term care is actually held onto by clients much more often than other products. So they were pretty careful about it. They assumed that maybe 3% of people each year would give up their policy and not use it. But it turned out that virtually everybody, 99.5% of people, keep their policies every year. And so because of that one factor alone, again, when you compound that over 30, 40, or 50 years, it leads to a big difference in what the ultimate prices need to be. Now you look at it, kind of today, and the companies have a lot more experience to go on. And because you really can't get it wrong if you assume everyone's holding onto their policies in the first place, the products today are much more price stable. But what you're hearing about is a lot of the repricing. You hear rate increases from policies that happened many, many years ago. And, we're talking about 20 or 30 years ago. Almost every single rate increase that's happened in the market, like 90% of them, happened prior to what they call rate stability regulations being enacted in the mid-2000s, so 15 years ago. The products sold after the mid-2000s, which are actually covered under a new set of regulations called rate stability regulations, actually have much more favorable profile from the consumer in terms of price stability going forward. So that's kind of what's happening in the traditional long-term care space, and that's why we feel comfortable with those products that are sold today. But now you also have these other options that have guaranteed premiums that have emerged because of the desire, I don't want to have to worry about having a rate increase ever. Well, now we have a product that provides that as well. And that's where you see a lot, especially the life insurance-based products that we talked about earlier with the long-term care feature, which gives you the leverage after you use your death benefit. So regardless of the situation and what the concerns are, we have a lot of tools and solutions to meet those needs in the market today.
Right. I encourage, and as you know, we have a network of people around the country, and we're literally in an automobile with them, showing them assisted living or meeting with them. And, it's a question that I certainly recommend to our advisors to ask the family members and ask them straight up, do you have any type of long-term care insurance? And so often we'll try to refer them to somebody like yourself that just it doesn't cost anything to learn about it, right? So and I'm sure you've said that to people. Hey, let's just talk. Let's go through it and understand better. I guess this isn't a question, but I just I don't know if you have any comments on that. It's not a commitment or a cost to talk to you or someone in your group about it, correct?
Right, and one of the kind of the mentality of our network is we count success in terms of how many families we help, right? And so the more people we can reach out to and help, that's what we're all about. That's really what our mission is all about. We love what we do because we know we're helping people. So absolutely, it's a partnership mentality. Some people actually have a financial advisor that they work with that manages their assets and their retirement funds, and we actually partner with financial advisors around the country the same way. I have long-term care insurance agents that are expert in this that actually bring me onto calls, like, for example, with business owner situations that get more advanced. And most of our experts are actually available online. So we're all licensed in different states, and we have to be licensed in your state to work with you. But once we have that licensing, we can actually go on to a conference call. I actually use my webcam quite a bit, and people actually see me on the computer screen, and they may be in their advisor's office, and we work together that way. And that's one of the nice innovations today with the technology, is that you can get an expert from anywhere around the country to come in to a call pretty much at a moment's notice and be able to work with you. And as you pointed out, it's the insurance companies build the cost of marketing into the products themselves. So it's all covered by whatever product you buy usually, and there's no fee, so to speak, for most insurance agents that do this to have a consultation, and they enjoy it. And again, you should take advantage of the fact that you can just kind of window shop, if you will, talk to them about it, and find out if it's the right fit for you before deciding if you want to actually, quote-unquote, purchase something.
Gotcha. So, unfortunately, I could talk to you for quite a bit longer about this subject matter, but we got about 30 seconds left here. So why don't you just share with our listeners how they could get a hold of you and any website they could go to, anything at all?
Right. So www.buddyins, so BUDDYINS, like insurance.com. If you search for that on the internet, you'll find our website. You can submit your information right on the home page of the website by saying "Start your plan here," and we'll go ahead and reach out to you. We'll also match you up with a top insurance specialist. I'll be involved with your case, but I'll also have you work with somebody in our network that is fluent in all the different types of products, and they can do a consultative type of approach. And again, if you do need any help, even beyond long-term care insurance, so to speak, let us help you navigate a very complex planning process, because you're not doing it alone, okay? There are people out there that really care about you.
Great. Mark Glickman, check it out, buddyins.com. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody, for joining us on Boomers Today. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
You've been listening to Boomers Today with Frank Sampson. To learn more about today's show, visit boomerstodayradio.com and join us next time for another edition of Boomers Today.